Alright, with jump 3 done, let's go ahead and just do kind of like the boost. Let's go ahead and just take the take a jump element and then just let's add one extra thing to it. So let's go ahead and create a new function. Alright, so just down here at the bottom, let's do function, and the function that we want to make for this one, let's just call this one jump from air. So this is kind of stretching a little bit further outside of what we've just done, because what we're actually asking for is something that we haven't actually done yet in terms of checks. For instance, the jump, we have the jump 1, 2, and 3, which is all based off of the ground jumping. So let's go ahead and just kind of scroll up to the top here. And if you notice, this is something that we just want to kind of take a look at here, is that when the character jumps, if I jump the character, when I jump once, I can't jump until I get back to the ground, and that's when I can jump again. Well, if I want the character to be able to jump in the air, we have this one function right here that says is grounded, and it's actually a check. So if grounded is true, and from over here it says if player is on the ground. Well, let's double check what our function call is here. Let's scroll down. We have a function that is called is grounded, and it says check if player is touching the ground, or a collision flag. Well, let's see what this is. It returns the collision flag and collision flags.collided below. So if these, if it's not equal to 0, then it's going to return something. Well, the collided below, it's similar to, like, if you remember the 2D Mario. We have the character controller. The character controller actually has an option for what is being collided with. On this one, we have one that's the collided below. We're looking for something that's being touched by the ground. So if we have the bottom of the character collider hitting an object below it, it's going to return true. So up on the top part, we have the character being on the ground. If it's on the ground, it's doing the jump 1, 2, and 3. So the only way to check for 1, 2, and 3 is if the character is on the ground. Well, let's say that we want the character to jump again while he's in the air. Well, we have the option down here, else, and we can actually check for another thing. We can say that if the character is in the air, let's see if the character can jump again. In order to actually jump again, we'll make a new function here. We'll call this one jump from air. And the jump from air, let's go ahead and just fill this one out. Just a basic setup for it. We'll do a quick check. We're just gonna double check on this one. We'll say that if grounded is actually equal to false. So the function that we just looked at, we'll say if it's equal to false, which is basically saying if the character's in the air. Then let's just do a quick print. We'll say print jump in air. Now, this one, let's make sure that we actually copy and paste this up into the else part. So we're saying if jump from air, meaning that if jumping in the character is not on the ground, he's in the air, then it's going to print this message. So we'll play this one. Let's go ahead and clear this out. So when I jump, we have the statement jump in air. Alright. So that means that when the character's in the air, we're actually finding that. So let's go ahead and add to this here. Let's say if, and we want to make sure that we do an action with it, so we'll say that get button down. So if we get the button down, let's go ahead and use the same one for jump that we've been using. That way you can push the spacebar twice, so you push it once to jump, and if you push it again, it'll jump higher. If we do a jump right here, let's say that if you actually jump while you're in the air, let's take our in-air velocity, and we'll take the y, and we'll make it equal just to a hard number for the moment. We'll just hard code this, that way we can do a quick check. So what should happen is that when we play, when we jump once, if we're in the air and we jump again, notice he had a double jump. So now we actually can jump twice. Now, the interesting thing about this is that based on when you jump, it's going to change the height. For instance, if I wait until it gets down to the very bottom, it's a downward gravity, so the height of the jump isn't as accelerated. If I jump immediately after that first jump, he actually has the air velocity at 20 is multiplied into the current jump, which makes it jump even higher. So we have a variance in our jump, which allows us to kind of play with how we push the spacebar. Alright. So with that one, seemed pretty easy. This is just because he's in the air, we don't have to worry about checking against anything else. The only catch for this one is that if we don't get to the ground in time, then we automatically go into our reset, and it goes back to the jump for the first jump. Alright, so if we have this, let's go ahead and change this one into a new one. We'll just call this one jump from air. And the current jump height equals this. Well, let's go ahead and just continue through with how we've done it before. So we'll say current jump height. And this is going to equal our jump from air. Alright. So we'll set the inner velocity to the current jump height on this one. And then for this, just like we did before, I'll just do a few spaces below, make a variable here. We'll make it a float, and we'll have it equal to, say, we'll do about 15 on it. Alright, so with that one set into place, what we don't have is something that we've been doing with the rest of these. We have the can jump all, and we also have the can jump type. So let's go ahead and add those into it. So we'll start off, before we even check to see if the player is in the air, again, let's go ahead and make sure we do the check for can jump all. And then we want to check to see whether or not this specific one can be used as a jump. So we'll say if can jump from air. Now let's set up our brackets here. There we go. So now we have a check for if all the jumps are disabled or enabled, and we check if this one can actually be jumped, and then we check to see if the player is in the air. If the player is in the air and you push the jump button again, then the in-air velocity on the up and down gets increased to the jump height. And the jump current height is jump from air, which is set to 15. Alright. So, let's go ahead and take this one. We also need to make a variable for the can jump from air option. And we'll set this to true. So just like we did with the other one, we'll take this up here and paste it into right below, let's see, we have a jump option, so we'll say jump from air. And we'll do enabled jumping from air. Now let's scroll down to the height. And let's find the height option that we want to use for it. So speed, jump from object, speed jump from, there we go. And height for, alright. So that sets us up with a couple more variables for the inspector, and now we have a new function that allows us to jump from in the air. Alright, so again, notice that we're just kind of doing this off the fly. We see a new feature that we could add to it, a new thing of functionality, and again, making sure that it's set up into the else, which is basically in the air. Now, again, just to point out, and this is something that you may not have thought of, but there aren't just two options. This is setting it as its base, but you could say if character is grounded, if character is in water, if character is in the air. You could actually set several different types of options that they're checking for. So don't feel like you have to do only an if-else statement for this. You could really set these into multiple different ones. Alright, so with these set, let's make sure that we comment on these areas, and then we'll be done with this part. So this one, this is just a function call for checking for player jumping while in air. And then double check on the, let's see, jump from air. Go ahead and set the comments up for this. Alright, so the comments are right here. And take a moment and type those in. So that gives us a little bit more idea of what's happening in the update move direction in terms of being on the ground or being in the air. This one also gives us just some nice access to being in the air, that we can actually do additional things with it. Alright. So that'll finish up the jumps for the jump 1, 2, 3 and the jump from air. And then just to double check. So the player can be on the ground. If the player jumps, goes back down, they can go into a combo move. Then they can also jump and then jump again. Alright, so those jumps all work, and we'll call that part of it finished off.